actual book. It's in here. Yes, it is. This is it, isn't it? Hi everyone, welcome back to Book Club. I am excited, I guess, for this book. I mean, it's a classic. It's such a nice book. It's a fun story. It's something that everyone has read at least once when they're in middle school or high school, or at least I think everyone has, at least in my... actually it was in middle school that I read this book. Huh, I was thinking it was gonna be high school. Nope, it was middle school. So, I'm so excited, I guess. It's a mixed feeling about this book, and it's a very lovely classic. The Outsiders. Look at this, it's a very nice cover. And The Outsiders is a good book. It's a good movie. I like both. I have no real opinion, I guess, on this. I mean, when I read it, it was very much a, oh, I like that. It's so fun. It's so fun. I like seeing all the little stickies. All the colors do actually mean something. I forgot what they mean already as I make this video. But, oh, bonus material inside. I completely forgot about that. It's basically like questions a teacher would ask you to think about the book and stuff like that. But yes, today's video is going to be about The Outsiders, a classic book that I believe everyone has read at least once, whether they were in middle school or in high school, or maybe at the very least has seen the movie, which I think S.E. Hinton. Yep, S.E. Hinton. I almost forgot the author's name for a second. I'm pretty sure she also was a part of like the movie production itself after the book came out and everything. So let's get into it, I guess. Alright, we're just gonna run through the characters real quick. I don't think this is actually supposed to be a representation of any of the actual characters, so don't worry, the book's fine. It was landed on my bed. So the main character is Ponyboy, which is a very interesting and fun name. I actually really love it. He does explain why he has that name, and I think it just kind of boiled down to his parents liked it, which is fair. He has a brother named Daryl, which everyone calls Derry, and he has another brother called Soda Pop. Everyone just calls him Soda. So these names are just so fun. I wonder if this was like an actual thing back then, if they just named kids whatever. Because I don't think you probably could get away with it now, but I don't know, I don't know. But Ponyboy is the main character. That's who we see the book through, the story through, the narrative. He is our main point of view. Derry, they call him Derry. Derry and Soda, they're two side characters, but they're very prominent to the story, as well as Johnny, one of Pony's friends. I'm just gonna call him Pony because that makes sense to me. Pony's friends sorry, my family's out there, and Dally, who is part of like the Greasers gang and stuff, and part of like their friend group, who is more friends with like Derry than anyone else. So there is like more characters. There's Steve, there's 2-Bit, there's all these characters in there, but I feel like Ponyboy's he is the main character. And then you got Soda Pop, Derry, Johnny, and Dally as like the main side characters. So those are all the characters that you really need to know. Is Ponyboy leaves the movie theater and he's just kind of walking back home. He's just thinking about the movie and school and all this kind of stuff. He's kind of like one of those like good, one of the good students who like actually likes reading and learning and doing his homework. But when he's walking back from the movie theater, he actually gets jumped by a bunch of Socs. And I think that is how you're supposed to say it, Soc. And that's just basically the rival gang. It's a bunch of rich kids. It's basically like back then it was like the middle class and up, and Greasers, which is what Ponyboy is like the kids who live in like a trailer park and puts grease in their hair and like mechanics and basically what society would just think is nothing but a bunch of dirt bags kind of stuff. He gets jumped by them, he runs home, and we kind of get to meet Soda and Steve and 2-Bit and Derry and Dally and Johnny, and we kind of get a little bit of all these background characters. And my favorite character in all this is 2-Bit, just because he's funny, and I love funny comedic characters. I think they're amazing. I love them, and if you can actually make me laugh, then I love you. After he gets home and he kind of gets yelled at by Derry and all that stuff, because he's kind of having like issues with his older brother, because his older brother was like roofing, he's taking care of the family since their parents died, and Pony's kind of sick and tired of like getting told, you know, like, hey, you need to shape like basically he's tired of getting scolded and being yelled at all the time. So he goes with Johnny and Dally to the movie theater, where he runs into a couple of classmates, 2 very lovely girls, Cherry and Monica. They're technically socs, but you know, they're being nice, they're being friendly, you know, they're just kind of having a nice chat. They apologize for Dally, who's kind of being a bit weird and creepy towards them, but you know, it's just a lot of aggressive flirting. And Pony and Johnny basically apologize on his behalf, and it's like, hey, we're sorry about that. He's a bit, he didn't really mean it. He didn't mean to be rude or anything like that, you know. It's just this person, you know, they're just apologizing. And the girls, you know, they find it endearing, they find the boys endearing, and Pony and Johnny end up walking Cherry and Monica home, but then a bunch of socs, one of them being like the boyfriends to the girls, come by and they're like about to like beat Pony and Johnny up, but the girls are like, nope, we'll just go with you, you guys take us home and we just won't deal with it or anything like that. So Pony then goes home, and when he does get home, Derry is back from work, and him and Pony, they're having it out. Like, Derry is yelling at Pony, Pony is getting sick and tired of this, Soda's trying to be a mediator, because how it is that Derry is the oldest, Soda is the middle, and Pony's the youngest. And during all this stuff, I remember this kind of threw me off guard a little bit when I started reading this book, and I've read this in middle school, so I didn't, you know, it's from middle school, I don't remember everything that happened in the book. So, but what ends up happening is that during the fight, Derry just ends up smacking Pony across the face, and Pony runs off, he goes find Johnny, and they just kind of wander around, do their own thing, and they walk past a water fountain, talking about their grievances, because Johnny is abused at home, and Pony is like, well, Derry just hit me, I don't want to have to deal with this anymore, like, let's just walk around and let them cool off and all that kind of stuff. So they're walking around and they get near a water fountain in a park, and what ends up happening is that the socs, the same guys from earlier who were, you know, like, hey, why are you walking our girlfriends home kind of thing, I don't know, dude, why weren't you doing that? Anyway, they find them, they jump them, and one of the socs, oh my goodness, Bob the soc, he ends up, like, you know, they're like, it's just a whole group of kids beating up Johnny and Johnny and Pony, and Bob ends up kind of picking up Pony and putting him in the fountain, trying to drown him. And Pony, again, this is all from Pony's point of view, and he's like about to black out and stuff, and the only thing he knows left is that he gets taken out of the fountain and he kind of blacks out for a second. And when he comes to, Johnny's just kind of sitting there. He looks really pale, he's shaking, and all the other socs, like, they've ran off, and the only thing that's really there is Bob's body. Johnny ended up killing Bob in order to get him off of Pony because he was killing Pony. It's a very messy thing, and both of the boys are freaked out. I mean, obviously they're freaked out because they're seen as greasers, they're seen as the hoodlums of the neighborhood. You know, they don't think the police are really gonna believe what happened or the judge of what happens. And Pony is with Derry and Soda. Derry and Soda are Pony's guardians, essentially. And Pony's worried that, hey, if he goes up to the judge and they try to explain what happened, then, you know, they're gonna take Pony away, and Johnny will probably just go back to his abusive parents, and they might actually do more than just give him a few bruises kind of thing. And with this, they just decide to run. They're like, you know what, no, we gotta get the heck out of Dodge. So they end up finding Dally, who they were at the movies with earlier. They end up finding him at this club. They go up to him and they just go, hey, we need to get out of town, we did something bad. And Dally's like, hold up. Okay, here's what's gonna happen. here's some money, here's a gun, go run to the other town, there's an abandoned church, and stay there until I get there. Do not go into the town, do not do anything, maybe get some different clothes, and maybe get something to dye your hair, but like, just go, run. So they end up running, and they end up getting on top of this train or something. I believe it was a train, if I remember correctly. I'm already losing my mind a little bit here. They end up getting on a train, they get to the other town, they find the abandoned church, and they hide away in there. And I think it's either Pony or Johnny, I can't remember which of the boys, but one of the boys goes out, they go to the grocery store, they get hair dye, they get like bologna and bread and sodas, and they get a pack of cigarettes because they're smoking, because, you know, it's like the 19 whatevers, you know, no one cares if kids are smoking these days. They're 14 years old, that's practically an adult. So So they end up just kind of hunkering down in the church. Pony ends up dyeing his hair and like chopping it kind of thing. And Johnny was gonna also dye his hair, but his hair is too dark for the dye to actually stick. So Pony's now like has choppy blonde hair, so he thinks he looks ridiculous. And they kind of like wait it out. Pony ends up reading Johnny Gone with the Wind. They end up talking about poetry and themes and stuff of the book and, you know, their lives a little bit. And as they're thinking and kind of doing their own thing, you know, their minds start wandering a bit. And then after, like, I think maybe a week or something, Dally comes to the church and is like, hey, like, how are you guys doing? Wow, you got, like, Pony, you look... He's trying not to laugh at him when he's like, you look great, bud. So, you know, trying to joke, trying to keep the mood light. And Johnny and Pony are just kind of like, you know what, no, we need to go back home and we need to face the music. We need to explain what happened. But right before they leave, the church suddenly catches on fire. I wonder what enlightened thing they could have had to have lit the church on fire. It could be anything, really. No, it was the cigarettes and the lighters that they had. So the church catches on fire, but there was a school that brought kids by the church, and there was a couple of kids inside the church when it started going up in flames. So Johnny, being a very sweet, caring boy he is, goes into the flaming, burning church, and with the help of Pony, they're getting the kids out of the church while Dally is like with the adults trying to get like the fire department, the police by, and all that kind of stuff. And as like they get the last few kids out, Pony, who's on the outside of the church but still close to the wall, who was getting the kids out the window, is yelling at Johnny to get out. Yeah, to get out of the church. And the only thing that he remembers is the roof collapsing in, and he ends up kind of collapsing as well because he got hit in the head. So Pony got hit in the head, and he ends up waking up back in town in a hospital. So what ends up happening is that when Pony wakes up in the hospital, his brothers are there, and they're crying. They're like, oh my god, we care about you, we love you. And Pony sees Derry crying, and that's what kind of clicks in his head. They're like, oh, my brothers actually do care about me, they do love me, and they're not just being a hard ass for no reason. And so while this is all happening, there is, like, in the background, because a greaser killed a Soch, the two gangs are going to fight each other in a giant rumble, which is basically a giant fight. And Pony is just absolutely, I'm gonna be a part of this. I am also going to fight. And everyone's kind of like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you 110% sure? Are you sure? And Pony's like, yeah, no, I'm gonna fight in this giant rumble. Which he does. The rumble happens, and it's kind of like a weird moment, because, I don't know, I felt like the moment was a little, it makes sense in the book, but reading it is a little, it's interesting. Because I try to write fight scenes, I don't know how to write fight scenes, and then reading fight scenes is always interesting. I feel like I just can't grasp it very well, but the fight scene happens, and they're all fighting, and basically the greasers win. They run off the Sochs, and so after they win the big fight, Dally and Pony goes back to the hospital to tell Johnny that they won the big fight, that, you know, they scared off the Sochs, and Johnny is kind of in that moment like, oh, very happy about that, and we get the iconic lines of "Stay gold, Pony boy," which is from the poem by Robert Frost. I can't remember the name of the poem right now. My brain is just not allowing me to. So, but when Johnny dies, Dally goes into like this weird grief-stricken rage. He goes and robs a grocery store, has a standoff with cops, and ends up getting shot at and dies. And this all happening, Pony is just kind of, he's going through it, you know? One friend basically dies a hero, the other one doesn't, you know, left to just be forgotten, and it does like affect him really badly. Not so badly to where he's not himself, but like in the book you do see that he has changed, like in the last like few chapters. He's a little more hardened, like his grades start tanking, which he ends up kind of fighting with Derry and Soda a little bit about still, but it's a lot less tense about it. But I remember there is this one scene near the end of the book where a bunch of Socs come up to 2-Bit and Soda and I think, yeah, and Pony. Like, it's Soda, 2-Bit, and Pony, if I remember correctly, in the scene. And a bunch of Socs come up, and Pony Boy's just drinking out of, like, a soda bottle, and so he finishes it, and he just smacks the glass against, like, the car or whatever they're near. I don't think it was a car, I think it was, like, a sign or something, and he ends up pointing, like, the broken bottle towards the Soc, and it's basically like, you wanna try? You wanna try? And after they run off, like, 2-Bit is kind of freaking out a little bit, and I really love 2-Bit in this scene, because 2-Bit's kind of like, he's kind of like trying to convey this life lesson of like, you don't have to be like us, like, we don't want you to be like us, we want you to be better, we want you to get out of the life that we've created for ourselves, kind of thing. And he's trying to figure out a way to convey that to him. Pony's not actually listening to him because he's too busy on the ground picking up the pieces of glass that he dropped just in case someone hurts himself. And when he explains this to 2-Bit, 2-Bit's like, what are you doing on the ground? He's like, I'm picking up the glass. Like, what if someone's tire pop? What if someone trips and falls? Like, what if someone gets hurt from this? 2-Bit visibly, like, relaxes, like, oh, you're still the same Pony Boy. Like, thank God. Like, yeah, Pony Boy has just hardened, but he's still, you know, the soft, sweet, caring boy that he is. And what I really like is that at the end of the book, it basically, it's the same, the last sentence is the first sentence of the first chapter. You know what I mean? So it's like a full circle kind of thing. Like, everything is just moving on with life. And I think that's very interesting. Anyway, that was the plot of The Outsiders. I hope I did convey the plot well enough for you guys. If not, let me know. If not, let me know down below in the comments, and maybe I'll remake the video. But that was the plot. Let's get into my own personal thoughts of the book. So, when I read this book the first time, it was very, you know, very emotional for me. You know, I was a middle schooler. It was my first time reading something like this. I believe it was middle school. I refuse to believe that I read this in elementary school, and I know I did not read this in high school. So, I just don't remember very well. When rereading it, I remembered that Johnny died. Like, because that's a very big point of, like, the story and everything like that. Like, that's the one thing that stuck in my brain. I was like, yeah, Johnny dies. I completely forgot that Dally does as well. So, that says something more about me than anything else, I believe. But yeah, this was actually a very quick read because it's only like 100 something. What is the last page? It's 180 pages. At least this version is. Everything else is kind of like the behind the scenes interview with the author and a discussion guide. So, you know, it's only 180 pages. It's a really quick read. I liked it back then. I liked it now, but it's not a book that stuck out with me. You know, it's not a book that changed my life or worldview, like, as I was, like, reading it, or that it sticks with me. I just remember, like, yeah, I read it, I liked it, the movie was good as well. I feel like if I actually did sit down and try to do, like, a big deep dive, or had this as, like, a book club book, and, like, where we all just kind of discussed it, I think it might have, like, had, like, especially now that I'm an adult, I feel like it would have a bigger impact on me, and hearing other people's thoughts and opinions and what they took out of the story, than when I was like a middle schooler, but obviously I didn't do that. I read it and I'm just, you know, I'm talking about it how I read it. It's a good book. It's a good movie. 5 out of 5, obviously. It's a classic, and I would recommend it to anyone. It's fairly easy. The slang is interesting because it's like, you gotta look up, I had to look up some slang words, and I actually did. This is the first time I've done this in a book. So I've been trying to like put little stickies in there, and each sticky has its own like thing. I think green is like something is funny, and orange is like plot relevant, and blue is like character relevant or something. But so I've been doing that with not most of my books, but the books I've been reading for this YouTube channel. But something else that I don't normally do with my books is that I actually started writing in this book in pencil. And that's the first time I've ever done that. And I like started underlining stuff. I wasn't gonna do it in pen because no, I'm not gonna underline my books in pen. I'm not gonna use pens. If I'm gonna make a note in my book, in the margins, it's going to be with pencil that I can erase. And at the time that I was reading this, I was also reading a bunch of fan fiction, specifically Batfam fan fiction, and if you know what that is, I just kept on thinking like every time like something happened in the book, I was like, huh, this is reminding me of like a fanfic, or like, hey, this reminds me of like, you know, the fan and like interactions of these characters kind of thing. So I'm not gonna explain what Batfam is, and if you know, then you know, and yeah, I don't regret it. It was a fun way to kind of stay like invested in the book in a sense, and also like kind of relating other themes from other pieces of media that I've read, whether it's fan made or not, just kind of relating it back to this. And it's like, it really does show that there is no original concept anymore or original characters, because everything is just kind of inspired off of everything. But yeah, overall 5 out of 5, would recommend. I enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, ring the bell icon, all of that good, wonderful stuff. Next week, the video is going to be about Murder by Cheesecake, a Golden Girls cozy murder mystery by Rachel Courage. And, I'm a big Golden Girls fan. I'm actually really excited, and I hope you are too. Read the book or don't read the book. I'll discuss it either way, but hopefully we have something to talk about together. Thank you so much for joining in on book club today. Bye! I'll see you in the next chapter.